and I sell each lot for $25,000 each. The stepped up value on my property then is $1.25 million. How many people would pay $100,000 to make $1.25 million? That's how simple it is. Where's the risk? You know, and the reason I say it's an infinite return is the moment I found this deal, naturally my friends who can't find a deal wanted me to give me the money. So let's say I gave them the money, so I have zero money into it. I give them half the deal, which means I make about $500,000. So I make $500,000 on zero of my money. I use other people's money, and that means my return is infinite. Does that make sense, you guys here? Nothing to that. I don't know where the risk is. So when people say to you investing is risky, generally it's one of these people over here who is not an active investor. This is done all day long. It took Kim and I about 20 minutes to find this thing. We saw it there, bam, done. It's not a big deal. It's not a Donald Trump deal. But $1 million is $1 million. You can still spend it that well. And the last thing, more real life examples, is this my wife Kim did, is that she found a piece of property not far from our house. I think Scott helped finance this one. It's a commercial building, and it was so undervalued that they wanted $8 million for it. Because it was undervalued, we borrowed 100% of the money. And the reason we borrowed it was very simply because every month this property put $30,000 a month cash flow in our pocket. Again, this is not a big deal, but $30,000 a month, you can live on that much. You know, it's not that bad. But the reason I use this deal as and we do about 1 or 2 of these a year, and it's not that hard to do. But the beauty of this is the banker gave us all the money here. It took us, like Michael says, 2 different levels of financing to do it. So we got 100% financing. Now, the reason I say this is to all the people who are the savers of the world. I ask this question: how long would it take you to save $8 million? And one of the reasons the rich are getting richer is because they know how to use other people's money or debt to move forward here. So it's not $8 million for the savers. A saver would have to save approximately $16 million to get this kind of level, because the government's going to take 50% of it. The beauty of using debt financing or equity financing, things like this, is, please listen to this, all you savers of the world. You're not going to get ahead by saving. A people who is borrowing and understands how to be a professional investor, it took my wife 2 weeks to find that money. And I asked the average saver of the world, how long will it take you to save that much money? For most people, $8 million or $16 million might take a number of years. Okay. And then the deal's gone. So the moment Kim found this deal here, she just tied it up, and that was the money. So the savers lose, the debtors win. And that's one of the big differences of learning how to use other people's money, how to have a friend like Scott McPherson or Michael Lecter on how to borrow money and things like this, because the savers are losing big time right now. So before we go into the next subject, I want to bring up my, one of my best friends, but also my investment partner in real estate, because, you know, the question I was asked during the break is, how does a person find a deal that cash flows? And I hear that a lot from people, especially now that people are coming into the market late. But there's still millions of deals around that you can find that cash flow. So before I answer that question, I'd rather bring up my business partner here. Is author of the ABCs of Real Estate Investment. It's Ken McElroy. It's a big hand for Ken, please. This is his book. Why don't you give a little bit of your background before we go on?
Sure. Well, like many of you, I started off investing in one single-family home and condos primarily, and then eventually started buying larger and larger properties, and I've been in business for a little over 10 years. We have two construction companies, 2 management companies. We're developers. We have a short-term housing company and a realty company now that feeds our company, which we bought last year about $150 million worth of real estate for all different kinds of things. We develop it, we buy it, we enhance them. We're doing some condo conversions all over the West Coast. So primarily that's what I do now. I have a large presence throughout the West. We have about 250 employees now and offices throughout the West Coast. And my partner, Ross McAllister, primarily handles the construction, and then I handle the management operations.
So this is my question to Kenny, because so many people say, well, how do you find a great deal? And the reason is that there's a difference between a passive investor and an active investor. Passive investors, because they're basically, either they cannot see the deal, or they wouldn't know a good deal if they saw it, or they're basically lazy. They just go to the broker, the financial planner or somebody says, do you have an investment for me? And naturally they do. It's generally mutual funds, stocks, or bonds, and they're always readily available. Real estate is different because you have to really look, or even in stocks you have to look really hard. So my question to you is this, how many deals do you look at a week?
We probably I personally look at least 30 a week, probably. I look at 4 or 5 a day, I bet. And they take me anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes each because I know what to look for.
Right. And how many of them are bad? 30.
30.
And I think that's the biggest difference is that, to find this deal over here, I probably looked at 100 deals. And then one day I stumble along and there it is, sitting there. I mean, this is what they call a no-brainer, right?
Well, part of looking at deals is part of your financial education and understanding all the different parts of the deal. And that's really where I get my education, as Robert does too. Some of them are land, some of them are retail, some of them are office, some of them are multifamily. And so through that process, you learn quite a bit when you make a phone call or ask questions. And then eventually you find something like this.
Yeah, or, we're looking constantly. That's what an active investor does. A passive investor just buys that junk that guy has to sell you. And most of the stuff is being sold by those financial planners. In my opinion, those mutual funds are junk. They will not make you money. They cost you money. That's why I'm not saying it's right or wrong, you guys. But I said, if you're going to be an active investor or a passive investor, you really need to make that decision. And active means you're constantly looking at deals, constantly analyzing them. It's 24/7. You're still running numbers in your head when you go to sleep, right?
Well, the great part about it is no matter where I am, even when I'm on vacation, I'm looking at deals, no matter what city I'm in, and it's a blast.
Yeah. And then I spent a lot of time in Australia, and I'm always looking. And no matter where I am throughout the world, China, Singapore, Canada, Europe, South America, Africa, they always say something. They always say, well, you can't do that here. No matter where I go. You can't do that here. And the reason they can't do it is because they're passive investors. They haven't trained their brain to see. No matter where I go, I'll find a deal that I can, make it, improve it, work it, or do something like that. And that's the difference between an active and a passive investor. Anything else you want to say?
Well, yeah, that's exactly why I wrote this book, because as you'll see later on, that the fundamentals are really the same everywhere.
All over the world.
All over the world, they're the same. Income minus expenses minus debt is cash flow. It's the same no matter if you're in Hong Kong or you're in Phoenix, Arizona. It doesn't matter. And that's why I wrote this book, because it walks you through that process.
And one of the things I think is really funny is that, because Kenny is, his business partners are like Lehman Brothers and Goldman and the big houses. As I said, the story of the father that gave those 3 boys the money. If you know how to multiply money, the banks of the world will give you the money. Is that correct?
Well, that's been the interesting part, is my balance sheet, of course, has grown over time, but there's more money. The last deal that we did, actually, Scott helped us with it. We had 9 people bidding on our project to lend us the money.
How much was it? How much were they lending you?
I can't remember. I think it was somewhere around $50 million. And we were looking at the best deal for us. So we were looking at the terms and the rates and the payouts and things like that as part of our financial model to decide who we wanted to accept money from.
But the reason they're giving you the money is because you know how to take $1 and turn it into 10, right?
That's right, and because we had the team behind us.
And that's really the skill a person has to learn. So many people want to do what Kenny does or what I do, but they're not willing to put the time in. They're passive investors, not active investors. And the thing that's even funnier is because Kenny's always in the marketplace. We're in Scottsdale, Arizona. Kenny's developing this condo project. And everybody's crying the blues. I can't find a deal that cash flows. And Kenny has this condo conversion right on the main road in Scottsdale with the best piece of property in the Arizona area, and yours will cash flow, right, even if I buy them.
And we just bought it 2 weeks ago, 300 units.
Yeah. So one of the keys to finding great deals is you got to have friends in the industry. It's called insider trading. You know? Well, you know, in the stock market, that's illegal. In the real estate market, that's perfectly legal, right?
Absolutely.
So that's how I find deals. It's, again, like I said to the gentleman, it's who your friends are, who you spend your time with. If you're spending time with people over here, like accountants and attorneys and all that who are non-investors, I think you're nuts. If you want to spend over here, that's where you find the deals are, because they always tell their friends first, right?
Well, and I think it's been mentioned before, there is so much money to be given to you if the deal makes financial sense. You need to decide how it makes financial sense. And that's why I wrote the book, because it walks you through what's a good deal, what's a bad deal.
Good. Give a big hand for Kenny, please. Thank you. So again, would you take 1 minute to discuss that? Look, ladies and gentlemen, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars right in front of you. But if you haven't trained your brain because you only have academic or professional education and no financial training, then you'll always be poor. You'll always think, well, it takes money to make money, or I don't have enough education, or I'm not rich, and all this stuff. Unless you change what's up here, nothing's going to change. Like I said, this project took probably 20 minutes to spot. It's a piece of raw land, and this one was right across the street from where Kim and I live. You know, it sat right there, and the bank gave us the money for it. 100% finance, put $30,000 a month in our pocket. And the property has gone up in value, but we don't really care, because all we really want is every month is $30,000. Why we want $30,000 a month? It's because then we're free. We don't have to work for the rest of our lives. But we can do this time and time again. But we're active investors, not passive investors. You guys got that? You got to pay your dues. Put in your homework. Or you can be lazy like most people and say, well, how come you can't tell me about that deal? If I find a great deal, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to buy it myself. Right? I mean, you should do the same thing. So please discuss that. You have to do the homework. Got that? Please discuss that really quickly, and then we'll move on.